Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm going to talk today about the future of education in terms of how we teach technology in a world where technology is ever more pervasive. And I want to talk about a paradox. Every time I open the newspaper or a magazine, I hear a lot about STEM and technology. And at the same time, technology is replacing a lot of the jobs that we are going to see in the future. And at the same time, we're seeing that we are teaching our kids to become technologists. But unless we teach them technology properly, the fear is that they will be outsourced, replaced by the very technologies that they create. Let me give you some context to what I'm saying. Let me introduce you to some future friends. This is Baxter. He costs $22,000. And we've seen many industrial robots before, but he's unique. And the reason he's unique is, or she is unique, is because he's cheap. And that means that small and medium enterprise factories can also employ him. He can very easily switch jobs. He's very dexterous. And you can see that he has certain kind of social responses and social features, which actually factory workers have said make him quite enjoyable to work with. This is Da Vinci. Da Vinci is $2 million, but you'll find him in a number of hospitals, from Japan to India to Lebanon, of course the US, where over 70% of prostate surgeries are done with Da Vinci. He's a robotic assistant to a lot of doctors. This is Atlas. He's 6 feet tall, 330 pounds, and he was developed by DARPA. He was developed as part of a competition where 5 different governments competed to create a search and rescue robot. This happened after the disaster in Fukushima in Japan. So if something horrible happens and he comes up, don't be afraid, he's there to help you. This is Paro. Paro is $6,000. She's a robotic seal, and if you touch her behind the ears, she has sensors all over, she will respond and purr. And for old people, when both their children are too busy to come and see them or actually visit them, Paro has proved to be quite a good companion. But on the other hand, children don't like Paro very much. And the reason they don't like Paro is because, as they tell their mummies, Grandma seems to like Paro more than she likes me. But you know, children are very smart. They understand that we can have emotional relations with machines. And this is Jibo. Jibo is a brainchild of Cynthia Brazil. She used to head the social robotics lab at MIT Media Lab, and then recently went on sabbatical to bring this home robot, only $500. She raised $25 million earlier this year. And he can help you make recipes. No need to have that selfie stick. Jibo will take all the birthday pictures that you need. You really should see the YouTube video for Jibo. And finally, I have pointed out a number of jobs: caretaker, doctor, fireman, search and rescue man, home assistant. All of these might be done by robots. But what about the creative arts? What if I was a pop star? Well, this is Hatsune Miku. She's a holograph. She's 6 feet tall also, and she never ages. She has long blue hair, and she actually has sold out concerts in Japan. And actually, people also live stream in from other parts of the world. She's not real. She is a synthetic voice, and people don't seem to care. A recent study by Oxford University, which is very highly cited, said that 47% of jobs will be automated. And if you look at the jobs, you can see telemarketers, and we kind of know that already because often it has been shown in recent reports you don't know if you're talking to a robot or a real person. Accountants. For some reason, if you're a dentist, you're very safe because I think people don't like robots in their mouth. But actors are safe. On the other hand, retail salespersons, you don't need a real person anymore. And let's not, be naive. CEOs love automation. You may think that people like people around, but when you're running a big business, Do you really want to deal with someone who gets sick, is emotionally needy, even if productive? For the kinds of jobs that can be automated, we have CEOs like Terry Gu who made the unfortunate and very undiplomatic remark, as human beings are also animals, to manage 1 million animals gives me a headache. And so he has asked for 1 million robots in all his factories. And if you don't already know, Foxconn creates all the wonderful iPads, iPhones, and other Apple products that you hold in your hand, but that were designed in America. So people ask me all the time, technology is everywhere. I should put my kid in a coding class. I really should, shouldn't I? And the answer is yes, but it's also no. And the reason I say no is because you have to be careful the kind of coding class you choose. If you chose the wrong way of teaching technology to children, they will be replaced by robots. But if you teach them in a way that is interesting, that is relevant to them, and that empowers them to be creative, then in fact, they will stay ahead of the robots and use those robots to lead in the 21st century. Because what matters in the future are ideas. Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee wrote a great book. They actually wrote 2 books called, one of them was called Race Against the Machine. It's really worth reading it. It doesn't make sense to talk about creativity unless you understand the dynamic nature of future economies, of future industries, and the way skills will be used in the future. I think that's very important. I meet a number of parents who have no idea. In Singapore, they care a lot about grades. In other countries, they have other priorities. But one thing is common. A lot of them are ignorant about the way automation and technology is going to drive disruption in every single sector that we engage with on an everyday basis. So I say technology, the way to think about it is that it's just another language. And it's a language to express your creativity. We know that STEAM is a new concept where they put A in STEM to highlight the fact that creativity and arts is a necessary part of science and technology education. And I would like to add one more thing to that. I would like to say that creativity is engendered by dealing with real-life problems. It is engendered and cultivated and fostered when you encounter problems in the real economy, whether by interacting with industry, nonprofit, government, and we must expose children to it as early as middle school, definitely in high school. And I'm not the only person thinking about this. I'd like to talk to you about Singapore. I always like Singapore as an example because human capital is really what they have. They have small land mass, and they don't have any natural resources. So they've been thinking a lot about what is the future of skills. And last year, they invited me to be part of a committee to overhaul the education sector for the tertiary level. And a lot of the emphasis was placed on integrating learning and industry and what is I would call applied learning. So you must have your internships. You must have learning in the workplace. We've seen this in Germany, Switzerland. We've seen it even in Australia. But they were really trying to do it for the industries that are going to be very important in the future, whether it's nanotech, biotech, green remanufacturing, even hospitality, those things that are difficult to be automated or outsourced to robots. And I argued even then that this paradigm needs to be shifted back to the schools. In high school, we should already be bringing in companies and making them work on problems with the students. Now, this is easier said than done, because convincing companies to come in and give internships to your students is not easy. I've tried it. So we have been working on a new concept called externships. And in externships, we tell companies, you know what, give us an innovation challenge, and we will house it at our own academy, and you can come in and see the final presentation. In fact, give us your case studies, and we will teach a particular subject, not with some theoretical case studies, but through the lens of your company. And this gives students a real real-world experience about what life in the workplace will be like in the future. I'd like to talk to you about a new kind of academy. An academy where a school doesn't exist by itself, where educators just don't talk to educators, but where educators talk to the industry. I call this death of the ivory tower. I go to so many conferences. I have to say I'm very impressed here because you've actually invited some people from the industry as well, and from the arts and from the university. But too often, teachers are just talking to teachers. And I just don't think that's a good idea. Not when innovation is happening much faster in the industry than it's happening in academia or even basic research in universities. So I wanted to, together with some partners, form a new kind of after-school enrichment program that would be a node in a network. And we would get advice from the industry. So we have partners such as Google, Uber, Airbnb, Bloomberg. Across every single sector, we went and picked a company that was truly transforming the sector, and we made a partnership with them. And then we went to the leading universities, and we asked them and took some advisors from them. And all of this was in the service of truly understanding the direction of future industries and future economies in which our students would be able to lead and thrive. Make applied learning the core. I'm not an IB teacher, so I'm coming from the industry. And I know a lot of thought has gone into the IB curriculum. I'm here not to say it should be the only core, but I would say add it to the core. Add this idea of partnership with the industry and applied learning where they tinker and they experiment and make it part of the IB curriculum, at least at the high school level. And I think IB at an international level can actually find it much easier than smaller startups such as myself to form those relationships with leading companies. What are you doing? You're just bridging the gap between theory and reality. So the foundation is STEM, and on top of that, you bring entrepreneurship and creativity. You bring the corporate experience, but because they are safe and nurtured within the premises of the academy or whichever your school may be, it's an externship. So you're protecting them. They're failing, but they're failing in a nurturing environment. And then rethink results. In Asia, it's all about grades. And if you don't torture the students by giving them more homework and more exams, parents think you're not doing a good job. But one thing even parents notice is when you expose children to the industry, and the industry, you bring in panels of experts, and they judge, not other teachers, but they judge the presentation. And I would call it market validation and the oral tradition. In the academy, we force students, we encourage them to defend even the algorithms that they choose. Because if you can code it, you can write it, you can draw it, you can act it. I've asked the Singapore Repertory Theatre to help me use drama to explain coding. Again, doing different kinds of partnerships outside the school has made a lot of difference in our after-school program. And finally, a regional network that spreads across all of Asia. This is our plan. We're launching in July. I'm very pleased to say that I was actually able to get the investment to pull this program off. So it's an experiment. But it's an experiment that believes that to prepare students for the future or to help them create the future, we must partner with the industry. A final few slides. I love this slide. I show it to all my talks. This is a kid from Estonia. Estonia, as you know, started coding classes in their primary school. And I like him because he seems like he's so confident. He's such a punk. He's saying in Estonian that says, I know Java, what do you know? And our traditional perception of geeky back office IT graduates is gone now. They're very creative, they're very confident. And final slide, this is what I would say applied learning looks in action. This is one of our courses at the Academy. Here's what we do. We have 3D printing, and we teach them all concepts of advanced manufacturing and product design. Then we have entrepreneurship courses. That means they learn about venture capital and raising funds, but they also know about financial management, real-life skills that they need. And then finally, out of the products they create, they actually go and put it on Shapeways or other kinds of markets. If they do a very good job, we would take them to factories in Johor so that they can actually see what it's like. Real creativity comes from problem solving. I don't know how many of you have experienced this, but I see again and again, students are creative within the confines of a stage or within the confines of a classroom. And the moment they encounter real life, it's very difficult for them to think they can solve a problem, to recognize a problem. But if they're in the habit of dealing with real life problems, they will get used to having the confidence, but also the ability to recognize problems and to solve them and to fail at them and to solve them again. Finally, what we have discovered is that with these innovation challenges, the companies are willing to promise an internship if they see some student who's exceptionally good. So it's a win-win for the students because the students learn about a career in that industry, and it's a win-win for the company because they learn about what future students need, future employees value, to create the right kind of team so that we can create the future that we want our children to have. Thank you very much.